Hello and welcome to another Sheave live stream. This is the first of two that we're having today, actually, and we're starting off with a bit of impact mapping. One of my top favorite things to talk about. With one of my top favorite people to talk to, Liz Immer. Welcome to the live stream, Liz.
Thanks so much, Ben. I'm glad to be here and a little nervous.
Yeah, I'm nervous today. I'm not. I don't know why I'm nervous today. I am. Maybe because I feel like the stakes are high.
Well, let's treat this humanely, and I hope that the folks logging in will also consider themselves to be part of our little community. We're all just trying our best.
Yeah, very well said. No, so yeah, everyone that's here, everyone that's watching, as he looks left to see the numbers creeping up on LinkedIn. As we go through this, we want you to be part of it. Like, we're not doing this just because we want to let everybody know, like, we know lots about impact mapping and behavioral science. Well, Liz is the behavioral science expert, that one there, not me. What we want to do is, share an approach, a tool, whatever you want to call it, which we really believe in, that we've both had a lot of experience in, and we know can really make a huge difference. So we are a little bit nervous because we want to make sure that we do impact mapping justice, and we want you all to leave with something that you can take away and use, something you can try and implement, something which is different you wouldn't have expected to have tried before. So please do kind of help us relax and ask us questions, put comments into LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever you're watching this. We will deal with as many, if not all, of the questions that come about in the best way we can possibly. We have an hour or so for this live stream, so we're going to try and get through as much content as possible. But the actual route that we take around talking about how to make a real big impact of impact mapping really depends upon the comments and the feedback we get from you all. Now, I suppose we should do a short intro so that people know a bit more about who we are, even though I can see so many people that we are familiar with who have kind of accepted the invite for this. But Liz, would you mind giving our listeners, our watchers, a overview of yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone again. My name is Liz. You hear that I'm American, but I live in Zurich. I've been in Switzerland for a bit more than 10 years. I started out as a behavioral scientist working in science at the Technical University in Zurich, where I was studying cooperation. Why do people cooperate, and what makes us cooperate more or less? What in our environment makes us cooperate more and less? And since then, I've been working to apply knowledge from behavioral science to product and experience, and doing that on the one hand as an external advisor, where I was also training teams to use this stuff. And then I moved in-house where I led a product design team and also led some product teams and product organizations. And I'm here today because I'm really interested in paying it forward. I've seen how, on the one hand, valuable, rewarding it can be to use these frameworks and knowledge coming from the scientific community. It also can be really tricky. And Ben and I were just talking. I said, I want to be pretty humble about this session, and don't expect that everybody's going to be able to do everything after they be spending a few minutes with us. But take one thing with you that you can change in your behavior that will have ripple effects. So I hope that was a good enough introduction. It's weird to not get any feedback. Usually, even in remote trainings, we have some feedback. So please speak up if you think I went off base or have some provocations. anytime.
Thank you, Liz. Well, if anyone does have questions as they come up or suggestions, please do put them in the comments on whichever platform you're consuming this content through. Um, I can see we've got people coming in now. We're getting a good number of people showing up. So as you join, if you did want to let us know a little bit more about you, perhaps where you are, like which city do you find yourself in today, or maybe even where you are working within that city, please do feel free to put those into the comments. I can see that we've got one from someone that I know from a long time ago, a lady called Louise Farrow. Hi, Louise. It's nice to have you here. But everyone, please share where you are, share where you're working from. Let's find ways to connect because, yeah, we want it to be a very kind of humble and open session. I suppose I'll give a little brief intro to me and I'll give myself the stage. There we go. So my name is Ben Maynard. I am a coach, trainer, mentor, helping leaders and product organizations or aspiring product organizations get better products in the hands of their customers. I mean, basically, more effectively. We're not going to say quicker because that isn't always the case. And my history of impact mapping starts a long, long time ago, specifically at my time in Deutsche Bank, where impact mapping became one of our default go-tos for starting any large piece of work. And we found out a huge, huge impact. And my role in that was to help facilitate sessions, was to teach impact mapping, and then to make sure that the impact maps were then made practically useful and evolved over time. So I'm bringing to this session a lot of experience using impact mapping by the book. It's a great book, by the way. There you go. As I always say, it's a great book because it's very thin. Written by the one and only Goiko Adzik. Yeah, please do go and check out the book. It's a fantastic book. So my experience is very much based upon the guidance outlined in the book, and what Liz is bringing to the party today is an extra level, right, of kind of how to make impact maps really effective. So it's nice to see that we've got some people coming on here. So look, here we go. So we have Louise. Hi, Louise. Louise is in London. There we go. We have a gentleman, Constantine, who I know, a remote place. Mohammed saying there's too much lag. There's not much we can do about that, unfortunately. Hopefully it will settle down. As you can see, we are using a tool called Restream up here. So it's a great tool. If there's a bit of lag, I do apologize. There's not much we can do about that. We have someone calling from Switzerland. There we go, Claudio. And also Inez from Porto. So yeah, welcome everyone, a global community today, which is what we like to see. And so, Liz, shall we begin with a little bit of the why around impact mapping?
Yeah. Well, since there is such a lag on the chat, I'll ask the question first and people can be thinking about it and you can write if you want. Why do you use impact mapping, or what do you hope to get from impact mapping? I hope to get more impact. I hope to I like working on hard questions and challenges and then really making progress toward moving the needle on them. And I like to do it in an efficient way, without wasting a lot of time, without too many tears spent over frustrating conversations about the same things again and again. I like working in a team that sort of gets it enough, like understands what the context that we're working in well enough so that everybody can contribute good ideas and helpful nuance. And in my experience, that's totally possible, but it's not always the case. And there are lots of times that we as product people are asked to just build this feature, or a product manager maybe defines a great vision for a feature, but at the end of the day, there's maybe an engineer who doesn't get a string defined and even needs to curate some content at the last minute, and in the worst case, doesn't really know what the issues are, doesn't know what the thing's about. And I like to use impact mapping to solve those problems, and behavioral science to bring everybody up to a certain level of understanding so that everybody can, sort of know what the gist of the string should be, because you know what the reason for the string
Mhm.
is in the UI. So get people on the same page, um, and figure out what the right thing to create is, and build the right vibe in the team so that you're ready to keep learning, so that we can keep getting better
Lovely.
fast. How
Yeah.
do you use impact mapping? You've been saying so much, you love it, you love it, you love it.
Yeah.
Do you see other stuff?
No, I mean, so for me, the one of the greatest things about impact mapping is that even though you create an impact map, the focus should never be to deliver everything that's on the map. And I think the beauty of impact mapping that enables that is because we tie everything to a goal, and a goal which should in some way make, save, or protect the organization's money. Right? A nice measurable goal. But then when we are coming up with ideas about who needs to change their behavior to achieve that goal, and what might that behavior change be, and then what could we deliver to perhaps provoke that behavior change, it gives us a tight linkage between everything that we're looking to deliver, thinking we could deliver, right through to how is that going to affect the measurable outcome that we're trying to achieve. So for me, the opportunity it provides anybody who is accountable for the goal and that impact map is to maximize the work they don't do by focusing on the bets which they think give the highest probability are going to pay off to the goal. So it
Mhm.
project gives you a really great opportunity. So when people come up to say, well, you're coming to me with this idea, that sounds like a lovely feature, but yeah, help me figure out where this fits into our impact map at the moment. Because if it doesn't fit in, it's not contributing towards the main actor, the main user we're really focusing on right now, then we're not going to focus on that.
Yeah.
We're not going to consider that. So it gets rid of those pet features. It gets rid of the people who shout the loudest coming in and saying, I want this, because it has to tie back to what's actually making an impact for the organization. And as a result, it helps to stop scope creep, which I also really like because it binds it really nicely. It tests people's assumptions about what they think needs to be delivered because it's tying it back to that behavior. And I suppose, again, the big thing is, and the reason I love user story mapping is because it asks us to focus on who needs to change their behavior and actually forces us to prioritize. And there's a consequence of focusing on that one particular act. So I use the word actor and use it interchangeably here. By focusing on that one person, that one persona, whatever it might be, what it means is that automatically limits our work in progress and gives a huge amount of focus to our teams. So we're orienting everyone on the thing that we think is going to pay off the most. And that's why I love impact mapping, because it does all that in a really simple structure.
Hmm. Yeah, great pitch. I think something that I forgot to mention, and you also didn't mention, um, is the maybe you sort of mentioned it, but I'll put the word on it, the strategic communication
Mm,
touch point. And thinking back to the little impact mapping exercise that we did a few weeks ago to warm up for this, where we challenged ourselves to name the goal and to name actors and to name impacts, which, okay, even though we like the approach, I don't like this term. We'll get into it in a minute. We have a Miro board where we can look at the terms, with the guests. But um, you mentioned it forces us, we don't do everything that's on the impact map, but we can still have the impact map with lots of different options on it, and visually strike out the things that we
mm,
have chosen not to do. Or maybe before we have made a full decision, provisionally strike out things that we think we're not going to focus on, and use it as a touch point, in discussion with partners or managers or C levels, to build alignment,
Mm.
and not do it in a way where you have to make a pitch. I think this is the best thing, but really, in a really well-structured approach, bring people along the journey to a proposal and let them weigh in, with a pretty simple thing.
Yeah, perfect. And then we should, yeah, share with people maybe what some of this looks like, and kind of more of the what around impact mapping, because I think this is one thing that it does provide is a critical link between the things that ultimately may end up on the backlog, we might see on a backlog somewhere, and the measurable goal we're trying to achieve. And it provides this glue, this thread in between the two, which is oh so often missed. So impact mapping can be used for strategic planning and can be used to look at some of the big chunkier pieces and how that comes together, but it can also be used for some of the more tactical pieces. And there's no reason why in some instances a impact map could not also then replace a product backlog in some respects, or at least be tied to it, which is something that we have done in the past, tying it to Jira, which is something we were talking about earlier. But Liz, say that people can see something and rather than just our faces, shall we share something from the Miro board to explain to them the what around impact mapping?
Yeah, I can share my screen. And what do you think? Should we start with the overview, and then we can do a little exercise with an example?
I think so, yeah.
All right.
I think
And
so.
so here, I'll explain what's on this board. I started this board by choosing the default Miro template for impact map, which does exist, but I was sort of amused to see that this is what came out of it. And for me, I find this sort
It's
of a
useless.
middle amount of helpful, to say
Yeah,
briefly.
no,
But
I think
let's yeah,
I
go
think it's
ahead.
terrible, Liz. Honestly, I mean, it's just I mean, maybe there's a gap in the market here, Liz, for us to
To make a
make a
Miro template.
Miroverse template for an impact map,
Y-
because
Yeah, well,
it's
if
such
some
as it is.
actually, okay, if somebody has a great template that you think should be used by other people, you can share it in this chat. We can get some community contributions going. But I just made made our own. So this is what Ben was talking about. So you start with this framework, and it has 5 steps in it. And you start by thinking about the goal. What do you really want to achieve in the world or for your business? And the impact mapping book describes it as making money or saving money, right? Make,
Yeah.
save, or protecting money. This is the way that it's suggested to summarize or frame the goal. And we should start with a real goal. And I I've been approached in the past few weeks by a bunch of different teams who explain their goals in these ways, and I thought we could riff on these and choose one to focus on. And notably, not all of these are framed in the way that they should be framed as goals. So that's the first bit of work that I think we would need to do. So I got asked to help an app company, a wellness, that would like to work towards a world where 1 billion people are healthier thanks to their. I've also worked with organizations that are working towards a world where every single meeting counts thanks to their product. Another is building a tool that should make it so that organizations in the healthcare field enjoy more engaged and more consistent teams where people are not quitting. Would you like to work on one of those goals, or would anybody like to work on one of those goals, or do you have a different challenge in your
Mhm.
company that you would like us to try to work on?
Yeah. So we're happy to take any feedback, any ideas. If people have a real thing that they'd like to bring to the table, we're happy to look at that as a goal as well. Or if anyone has any feedback on any of the goals that are up here, Because some of these are more measurable, I think, and easier to wrap your head around than others. So we're happy to take some feedback and some ideas. One comment that's just come in from Constantine. Let me just bring this up on the screen.
It was
He says, yeah, nice touch. See, I did
okay.
say this, Liz. I did say this.
It was unintentional. It's a bit awkward for me. Okay.
Apparently, it's serendipity, but it matches up Constantine rather than design.
The vibe of
So
the
yeah, so
day.
it's really important to start with a measurable goal. It should be something which, in some way, makes, saves, or protects money, but doesn't have to talk specifically to that revenue element. But there has to be a link back to it, and
Okay, so
everything.
John chose something. So I think we should go with John.
Okay.
So John wants to make every meeting count. And I think that this is something that we can also really frame as a make, save, or protect money goal. So oopsies, let's focus on this. And let's say the goal could be that, so that's the product vision or the company vision. And the way that we're going to get there is by building a tool for meeting management.
Liz,
And
do you mind just zooming in a bit closer on the
oh yeah,
Miro? Oh, no, I think that's okay. Actually, sorry. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
how's that? Okay. So we have this goal that every meeting counts. We're going to make a product that's going to be a meeting management tool. And we are going to make money by selling subscriptions to that tool and then by retaining those customers, hopefully. How does that sound to you?
Well, the people are saying yes, Liz, and the zooming is good as well. So yes.
Well, um, okay. So we need to sell more subscriptions to the meeting management tool and keep the users happy, keep the users using it, keep the customers. So in the impact mapping framework, the next step is to think about the actors. And again, here we have a choice to define who do we need to do something. And usually it's the case that it's not just one person or one type of person who we need to do something. Could you brainstorm a little bit with me, Ben? What kinds
Mm.
of actors could you imagine would
Well,
be relevant here?
so the obvious ones here, and I'll give you something. I'll give us something to riff on. We could say customers, but that's very, very broad. And how useful is that? Because
Mm-hmm.
I would say customers, but then I'm saying we want to keep customers. Great. So we don't want to annoy anybody.
Mm.
So which particular customers do we want to keep? Are there particular customer segments which aren't doing too well and do seem to be leaving us? And why is that? Why is that the case? So I think
The
there's
customers
something.
who are leaving.
Yeah, because I think when we just say customers, it's too broad. So we need to be more specific with it. Now, one of the interesting opportunities you get, I think, with impact mapping is because it uses the word actor, which is an old school UML word for anyone that's old enough to remember UML. And so actually an actor could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
could be a human, it could be another system somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
which is quite an
Yeah.
interesting opportunity that then there's a presented. So if it's a sell more subs to the meeting management tool, if it's about subscriptions, is there an affiliate that we work with?
So that affiliate might advertise our product more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hypothetically speaking, our affiliates, do we have affiliates and they're just not promoting it? And we think, we think actually the good. Why are we? I know we are aligned with the global union for teachers, and teachers have lots of meetings. Why are we selling? Why are we getting no teachers joining? This is weird. So we'll look, maybe
Mm-hmm.
it means our affiliates and our affiliate programs, or particular affiliates, to help drive this, to help us reach a goal.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's take that as an opportunity, but I think it's probably, for the sake of the next 20 minutes or so, interesting to drill down a little bit into customers, or the actual users. And we could also consider breaking down the types of users.
To what level, Liz? In your experience, what's a good level of focus to give yourself?
Yeah. So in this case of, I mean, if we're thinking about the context in which the product is used, it's a meeting. And in a meeting, you could think of there being a few different roles. One of them might be a participant in a meeting. I'm going to come back to your question, Konstantin, in a second. So there's participants in a meeting, there are meeting leaders, and there might be other contributors outside of the meeting. So we could consider breaking it down into those three different kinds of people to focus on. Maybe also because they're very likely to be using the tool in a different way. So here you're the host. You have, certain goals that you want to achieve with this meeting that we're hosting, and you're a little bit different from me, and you're a lot different from the people who whose pictures are not showing up on the screen. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
So hosts, participants, and other contributors, other meeting contributors. And this is now, I mean, I would say these are probably important actors, but also this is probably not comprehensive.
Yeah.
And I would, if we didn't have just 20 minutes, even if I were just sitting at my desk by myself, push myself for another minute to think about whether these are the right actors, the most important ones, and then move forward.
Yeah. And
To
I think this is
yeah, sorry.
just a quick point is that it's really important that when we're building up an impact map, one of the things that I found was hugely beneficial was to work on a skeleton impact map way before you got everyone in the room. So don't get people in a room and just try and build it all from scratch, because actually the level of user research, customer data, support tickets, all conversations you need to have just to build that skeleton, it can be hours or days or even longer, because what you don't want to do is turn up with your gut feel. As much as possible, you want to try and keep it grounded in something that's realistic, something you have more confidence in. So what real feedback have you got from customers or users? Have you spoken to your user researchers? Have you looked at support incidents? What data can you kind of base this on? Because you want to go there with something which people are going to look at and say, why have you chosen that one? And actually have an answer other than just like, oh yeah, I kind of felt it was the right thing to do. So do that initial
Yeah.
brainstorm and then go and get some data.
Yeah. And what if you are in the situation where you don't have it yet? Right now, I'm also advising an organization that has never done user research before.
Mm.
And they have really bad data. So I can tell you what I'm trying to do with them. I wonder if there are people who have similar experiences in the call. I think probably, because there are a lot of cases where we don't have the stuff to go,
Mm.
even, either it's hard to go digging for it or we really don't have it yet. I really like the confidence meter idea that, there are cases where we really need oh, whoa. Did you just have that?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. Like if you don't have the data, maybe you don't need to wait so long to get started, but go forward sketching with your gut feeling, as long as you label it that it's your gut feeling and you have no evidence to back it up. Stay humble with yourself and honest with others would be my advice. To Constantine's question, why did I move this post-it out of the frame? It's because this impact map is trying to get us to get more specific, or at least this is how I think of it. We start here on the left with something that is really big and maybe vague and visionary. And now going through these steps, we're trying to break it down into more specific pieces. In German, they say breaking down the elephant into the pieces. And so that's why I shoved this post-it, which I think is very big, towards the left, and it went out of the frame. But it's not because it's not important. It's just because it's too big to do much with. And then like here are some of the more specific things that would need to happen so that we will have, enough funding to build a product that will contribute to this world where every meeting counts.
It's similar to OKRs. If you haven't got a mission, right, something, a vision, something to orient yourself around, then your OKRs will just be misaligned and you'll be going off in all different kinds of directions.
Yeah.
So in this instance, our mission, our reason for existence is a world where every meeting counts. Our impact map, because we're looking on addressing an immediate strategic concern, needs to be more focused in on what the goal is, because otherwise, like you said, it's just too much. So actually, by going through this process of narrowing down and focusing, we are limiting our work in progress, and we're giving a high proportion of focus and really forcing prioritization at a level which works for us. And that's what you have to appreciate. Think about your context. What is the right level given your context?
Yeah. Keep it up with the questions. Or maybe you disagree with me or with Ben. And that's also really interesting. You jump directly from this huge goal directly to a tool. If we do an impact map on the higher level, then the tool could be an actor, right? Yeah, it could be. And yeah, I mean, I scoped the conversation to focus us in on a digital product, but maybe what we would really want to create is an offering for meeting facilitation or trainings or coachings for sure. Here we're just trying to scope in so that we can move towards the right on this Miro board, basically. But I love that point actually, because very, very often product teams do skip those steps of exploring whether the answer really should be a tool, and maybe it shouldn't. So thanks so much. All right, so the next step, shall we continue?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. I mean, so we're getting to the point now where we've got an idea of what our goal is. It's nice and focused. We're focusing in on some particular customer segments. So again, we've got yet more focus. And so then the question is, then when we start thinking about behavioral science, and how does that start to factor into this impact map, Liz?
Yeah. So behavioral science offers us two main things. On the one hand, it offers us the science, the insights that have come out of several decades of work in psychology and economics and the intersection of those fields. And it offers us some really nice methods, some of which are already baked into impact mapping, like straight out of the book. And what I would like to do is move to this next step in the impact mapping framework, and then bake in some of the science, some of the knowledge. That sound good?
Let's do it.
Okay. And so the next step is called impact, and I labeled this with a lightning bolt here, and I already said I have a problem with the name because I think one of the problems with impact mapping is that this term is not intuitive for people to understand, and it always, in my observation, people get nervous around this, but maybe you have a better idea for a label. I like to call this desired outcome or behavior, target behavior. So here we've labeled a few personas or types of different users, and let's choose one to focus on. And I would suggest that we choose host in this case. Reason is that I think hosts are really important influencers. They're going to be guiding their meeting group to use the tool or not use the tool. And the way that they use the tool is going to make that meeting count or not. They could make it lame or great, depending on the way that they use the tool. Does that sound good to you, Ben?
Yes. So I was just doing a bit of research to try and figure out what the because impact mapping comes from something else, which is called effect mapping. So I think almost what's the effect we're looking to have is that change in behavior. Anyway, sorry, Liz.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to be trying to design a tool or an experience that has that creates this this
Yeah.
impact. Yeah. So this desire, I'm going to relabel it here even as well. So the desired behavior. And so what do we need the hosts to do to make every meeting count and to make sure that they are keeping the customers? We need them to create an agenda before the meeting and share it.
Yeah. So it's based on the assumption that, let's say we've got data that suggests that meetings with good agendas, which are shared before the meeting, make for better, happier meetings. And if we can, we're finding a way to help with that.
Exactly. And that is true. I did work for a meeting management tool company and I've developed quite an expertise in what makes a meeting good. And defining a goal and communicating it is key. Defining an agenda and communicating it as a key is key. And telling people what they need to do in order to be good contributors or good participants in the meeting is key. So communicate others' responsibilities, I would put on here as well. And this is a good step to also do some iterating between um, actors and desired behaviors, because here we did a brainstorm about all the different or some of the different actors who need to do something, and then we've been identifying what we need them to do to start or stop or do more of or more less of. And when we are product team with constrained resources, we want to be working on the highest leverage activities. And that probably means that we want to focus on a desired behavior that's really, really important and is not being done right now. And so I would iterate between these two steps and consider, well, are all of the hosts already creating an agenda before the meeting and sharing it? If yes, then I'm probably not going to spend too much more of my or my team's time to figure out what, what features to build to or what experience to change to get there. But for the sake of this, since we are, spending our folks' time um, trying to talk about impact mapping and behavioral science, let's just assume that's not happening. Let's assume that we have a lot of users today signed up, but they're not really using the tool. And we think that it would make a really big difference if hosts would create an awesome agenda and share it before the meeting.
Okay. So our hope is that because if we look at one of our goals, which was to keep the customers, so I just put on there, say, reduce churn by 50%, which is, I say, a target. And then we're looking at customers that are leaving us, or we think could be leaving us. So we're focusing on the hosts of those, and we're hoping that if the hosts can then create agendas and communicate our responsibilities, and the meetings will be more effective, which means they'll be crediting the tool with helping them do this in a nice, quick, easy, simple way. So then they get better meetings, which means that they see the reason they're having better meetings is because of the tool that we're making for them.
Yeah.
So then they won't leave, they will hang around.
Cool. And Konstantin, if you have more, keep it coming. Okay, so I'm just making these other ones that we chose not to focus on a lighter shade of yellow, but let's keep going. In impact mapping, the next step would be creating the deliverables, which is defining the features. And this is another part of the impact mapping framework that I find to be really tricky, because I think it's a pretty big jump to go from a behavior to identifying the best possible deliverable. And you said from the Agile Manifesto earlier, the goal is to maximize the amount of work not done. I think if you just jump from this to the deliverable and then go to build the deliverable that you've defined, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty magical if you get to the best possible deliverable, but the risk is pretty high that if you don't take a little bit more time to dig into what I call behavioral drivers and the best opportunities, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to hit the nail on the head. Now I'll take this whole pink box away because it's getting a bit on my nerves. So these would be my critiques of impact mapping that I just mentioned. While it helps, the terms are hard to grasp. The question is, how do we make it easier for us and our teams to use? I would do it first by redefining impact or relabeling impact to desired behavior. The other critique is that in the best case, those deliverables are obvious. The best deliverables are obvious, but it's a really big jump from impact to deliverable. And we want to get it more right the first time cheaply. And that's where I find this first framework from behavioral science to be really helpful. Daniel Kahneman, I heard him once describe this exercise as like Lewin's force field. And that's why I built it out here as a sort of a force field. This is one of the frameworks I've seen work the best in teams, and I'll explain it. So what we do in the middle is we pull down, or I'll copy, our desired behavior into the middle. So we want hosts to create hosts more often, create an agenda before the meeting, and they share it. And then we ask ourselves the question, why do they do what they do? And why don't they do this more consistently already? Behavior, we can think of as being driven by costs and benefits. And people on the whole, we tend to do things that have higher benefits than costs to us. We don't do it perfectly, but this is a tendency. So it's worthwhile as a product team to consider what are those benefits and costs that are bringing me to where I am today, and what could be the benefits or costs that could be adjusted to adjust my behavior. And when I'm talking about benefits and costs, the first thing that jumps to your mind is money. And I also studied economics. Money does matter. But from the behavioral science literature, we have a lot of evidence that shows us something that you recognize if you're honest with yourself or when you look around the world. While money matters, it's not the only thing that matters. And we can define two additional dimensions next to money that matter a lot. I like to call them psychological and social. There are psychological costs that hold us back from certain behaviors, and there are psychological benefits that drive us towards behaviors or would drive us towards behaviors. What do I mean by that? Here are some examples. It's psychologically costly for me if it's hard or scary or complicated, or if it's not in line with my value set. These things, behaviors that are hard or difficult, complicated, stressful, we're doing them maybe for the first time, those are all psychological costs. Psychological benefits, these are things that are fun, or we anticipate them being fun, that make us feel good, that we think are the right thing to do. Often these are things that we have habits of doing. Often are things that we feel we're making progress while doing. People love making progress. So here we can think about what could be the psychological cost that would be holding hosts back from creating agendas before the meeting. Maybe because they've never done it before. Maybe they don't know what a good agenda would look like. Maybe they don't really know what the point of the meeting is. It's just a recurring meeting that's in their calendar. And these are all barriers that could be holding them back from doing the target behavior. And maybe they don't perceive it as being fun, but if it were fun, that would be a driver or a motivator, something that feels rewarding, sometimes something that feels that they're making progress toward their job to be done or their higher purpose. I mentioned also this social dimension, and these aspects matter too. What are social costs and benefits? Social costs are often things that make us different from our social group. Humans are herd animals, and we generally like doing what others are doing, or what we think others think that we should do. And doing differently can be really costly for us. Now, one example could be exactly this for creating an agenda. I don't see anybody else creating and sharing an agenda in my organization. It could be, maybe this is too, people are going to think this is too pushy, or I'm too much of a, goody two shoes, or I'm annoying them. These things could all be social costs that would keep a host away from doing what we believe they should do. And benefits are the other side of that coin. So we love doing things that others are doing. We love doing things that we expect others will appreciate us for, or praise us for. We also love doing things that are cooperative. I said I studied cooperation before. I know like most people tend to be cooperative and appreciate others who are cooperative. We like to be reciprocal with each other, and cooperative. So expecting that others will think this is a really cooperative and helpful behavior could be a benefit that would drive or encourage hosts to do this target behavior. So this is now I'm going to skip the financial dimension, but this is an exercise that I really like to do with teams, and sometimes also by myself, to really force myself to think through what these key behavioral drivers would be. Maybe I have the data already, Ben, like you were saying, but maybe we don't have the data, and then it is just it starts with a gut feeling. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, so often things start with a gut feeling, and sometimes that's a good place to go. And I think I think first time scary is a gut feel, but at the same time, I think doing things for the first time, most people do find that quite scary.
Mm. And maybe they're unsure what would be a good agenda.
Yeah. So we're saying psychological, we're saying what is our self-talk saying about our ability to do something, or how we feel about doing this. And the social then is saying, how do we feel that we are going to be, what's happening outside of our own self-talk, the people around us, which is maybe inhibiting us from doing the thing differently.
Yeah. And self-talk, I'm now trying to type this in so people have something to look for other than a empty slate, but it's also true in this tool. I find it really helpful to phrase these barriers and drivers as inner monologues. So if we're thinking about a meeting host, she might be thinking, "Oh, I'm scared," or "Oh, I don't know, I'm unsure what would be a good agenda." And if we can phrase these, it sometimes helps me to unlock my creative brainstorms, and not just me. I've worked with lots of teams doing this to phrase it as a sort of fake user quote.
Mm-hmm.
Louise just made a great point about confirmation bias in the data. Thanks. Nice animation. And yes, it's true. Because, of course, these are hypotheses that we probably want to test. And by taking this step to define a hypothesis, we have a tendency to want to prove ourselves right as people. And it's really important to not seek to validate a hypothesis, but really test it. And ultimately, we're not going to be able to um, tackle all of the costs at once or amplify all of the benefits at once. So we want to be focusing on the ones that matter the most. And this could be a frame to think in, to exactly avoid the confirmation bias. So here, yes, I'm putting hypotheses down, but I don't know what's most important. Now I'm going to go out and test them to find the one that's the most important. And that is helpful because then you might find like, okay, this is actually, you know, not the case in our target user group. They're not worried about being annoying. We can just cross it off.
And I think it's a really important point. Whilst I'm a keen advocate of saying people to come up with a skeleton impact map before you get into a room. If this is something kind of strategic and important, understand where some of the actors are, understand the goal, maybe think about some of the behavior changes, but never just assume that by working on your own, you've come up with the right answer. The impact maps come alive when you are collaborating with people, when you do have the real users or customers in the room with you, so that you can quiz them and you can understand actually what is their world like, and you can build empathy for them, so you can help make better experiments to run and things to deliver to help them make their lives better. Because what we're looking to do here is make it so enticing that they really want to use our tool. And there's only so far we're going to get from guessing. So you're absolutely right, Louise. Confirmation bias is a dangerous pitfall, but this is where build up a skeleton impact map on your own or with a couple of people, and then go and talk to people, do the research, get the users in the room, and really find out what is it that's making people tick or not. And also,
And
let's
that's
keep in mind the
really
time.
hard. Wait, I just want to say one thing to that. And that is it's not an easy thing, right?
Yeah.
Because who is ever going to be able to tell you why they do something and why they don't? Usually answers you get to that question are highly influenced at least by a demand effect. None of us know, or only the most self-reflective of us know why we don't pay our bills, or why we don't behave more healthfully, or why we don't save more for retirement. It's up to designers and researchers and product people, or say, it's up to us to figure it out. And the literature and really good user research can help us. Just
Absolutely.
Yeah. Should we look at Claudio's comment? Teresa Torres just shared about this. We should focus our energy and proving that we are wrong to counter confirmation bias. It's not a silver bullet, but it has already made a difference for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it's one of the dangerous things is what we call EDD, like ego-driven development. It's too easy to let our own self-belief get in the way of things. So always look to be disproved. I think it's really important when we think systemically, is work with people that aren't like you.
Yeah. And make it really rewarding. If we go back to these benefits, like, build in the incentives for ourselves, for myself, for yourself, for our team to behave in the right way. And here it's, the target behavior is to be really critical about our hypotheses. How could we do that? By working with people who we praise for disagreeing with us,
Yeah.
For me, one thing, it's a silly thing. I know I always go on these tangents about Miro, but here we can see it quite nice. I think it is really empowering to be able to cross things off. It feels good if you can cross things off and then highlight other things with, I don't know,
Mm.
like the tag, important, and like build in these benefits for ourselves that matter.
Yeah. Perfect. Just keep an eye on the time.
Yeah.
And then we're kind of rapidly getting towards the end. Is there we've covered some ideas here, and this is helping us to come up with some of those some of the effects, some of the desired behavior changes, and just tuning into kind of the behavioral science and of maybe our users. Is there, in the last few minutes, is there any big kind of tips or ideas you can give people to kind of help kind of further elevate their impact
Yeah.
mapping experience?
Yeah. We really don't have a lot of time, but how should I do this? I think I'm going to go back to this. I'll show this, and then I'm going to go back to our example that we were playing around with to show how it
Mhm.
works. So I mentioned the science of behavioral, the science of behavioral science, all of this knowledge that's been gained. And I showed this framework, which I find really helpful because it distills a lot, but it doesn't distill everything. Here we're talking about costs and benefits, but we know also that people, we say we're not perfectly rational. We don't actually perceive all of the costs and benefits perfectly. The way our brains have evolved to work, is sometimes described as working in two systems, it's dual process theory. And while we have a system two that is quite reflective and thinks very deeply and really considers, why do I do what we do, or why do I do what I do, and you know really directs us carefully. 90% of the day, our slow reflective system two is not active. It's our system one that is guiding our behaviors throughout the day. And system one is these parts of our brain that have evolved to enable us to take in tons of information and do something with it without our brain sort of exploding. And it does that through a usage of a lot of heuristics or shortcuts. And these shortcuts are awesome, but they also lead to certain biases in our perception. And most of the people who are working in behavioral science are working to understand, what are these shortcuts, what are the most important ones, and how do they affect the way that we take in information and respond to them. And there are diagrams like this one that collect a lot of this knowledge, and applied behavioral scientists or product people who are applying behavioral science have the opportunity to use this knowledge to shape more effective products. And when I'm using impact mapping in this behavioral design approach, what I like to do is pull out some of the most robust, most important insights, that I first hypothesize I believe are having a big influence on the desired behavior, or could be very helpful to unlocking behavior, and pull them together with these costs and benefits. Thanks. Yes, that is the link to that. And then, I mean, now we don't have a chance to go through it, but use frameworks like the Fog behavioral model or COM-B to um, sort through all of the information about the drivers and benefits that matter, and the biases that are making these, that are weighting these as more or less important. Sorry, this is super short. When people have questions, you can really reach out to me on LinkedIn or send me an email, and I'm happy to engage more. Um,
Yeah, I mean, this has been a real, we've covered a lot of ground, but it makes you realize just how much there is to cover. So I kind of feel like we've kind of covered the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much more. So if you do have further questions or you want to learn more about impact mapping and behavioral science from Liz and I, please do let us know either via comment now or send us a DM. We're happy to field any questions that you might have, but we will be running some training on this later on in the year. So if you are interested in coming along and learning from us on how to kind of integrate the worlds of behavioral science and impact mapping to really help make products more successful, help as product managers, product professionals make better bets, or if we're coaches supporting those people, how can we help them to come to new and different, non-obvious ideas about how to do things? Because impact mapping, is a fantastic tool that needs to be used more. And so we want to help to spread the word and support people in doing that.
And once you've done it, it's easy, right? Maybe the first time is scary and hard or overwhelming, but getting the second time is a lot easier. And we run a lot of workshops also around applied behavioral science connected with impact mapping, which are a lot of fun. Sometimes even end with live music performances to really drive some of the key points home.
Well, live music is optional, but nice. So Liz, thank you very much for coming along to this live stream. It's been awesome to share the stage with you, and thank you for sharing so much around some of the behavioral science elements as well, because that's been educational for me too. I did put as many links as I could do into the comments. So if you're watching this on a replay, if you check out the comments, you'll find links to it. But as I said, please do contact Liz or myself if you would like to learn more about this.
Yeah, and if you want to give feedback on this session, what you found really useful or what you thought was distracting or unhelpful, it was really nice to be here. And also thanks for writing the comments. That makes it more fun.
Yeah. So I'm just looking here. We've got some lovely things coming up. So we've got a nice big thank you from Constantine. Also one from Claudio. There we go. One from how am I pronouncing this gentleman's name? Rui. There we go. Friend of yours. And one from Louise as well. If you put a comment on there saying how much you liked it and thanking us, thank you so much. If you did want to share that on LinkedIn, do tag myself and Liz. The positive feedback we get from everyone that comes along to these things gives us the motivation to keep going. So yeah, please do share this with one person, any one person you like. There you go, Ryan. Ryan, it's a pleasure. So there we go.
Cool.
So yeah, we look forward to seeing what you share about this online. Any questions or comments, please do contact us directly. Liz, any closing thoughts from you?
I wish everyone a wonderful afternoon. And even if you don't have any questions, you can tell us in a few weeks if you changed any behaviors of your own or people around you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Liz. And thank you everyone for tuning in.
Good luck.
Bye, we'll be back again this evening with Judy Dirksen talking about systems, thinking, and leadership behavior change. It's a day of behavior, it seems.
All about behavior. It's all about behavior.
Yep, every day. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon.